It's been a while since the release of Dissidia NT, and the current state of the game is, let's just say, the same as the past 2 years, when Japan and Play Around is still ranking the match like usual, and I live near Japan, so sweet for me, since the arcade is still going strong. But the western side got quiet pretty quickly, with poor sale, poor review, lack of marketing, and these two hype as hell games just released really close together. Hell, at least Japan know how to spread out the release date, and while there's multiple factors on why it's got poor reception, there are two big giant black hole of a problem in game that bog it down. And today I'm gonna talk about it, because even though I'm a biggest fan of NT, ignoring a problem of the game is something I don't want to do. It's better to learn from the mistake and fix it rather than let it stick like a sore thumb. Hell, try first and fix it later has become a trend for Square Enix lately. Okay, while I said there are two main problems, there's another main problem which is online connectivity. But because there's not much to say aside from improving netcode with minor tweak or regional dedicated server instead of peer-to-peer and so on. I mean, peer-to-peer mics work fine in arcade, since the arcade already provide an ultra high-speed internet router Royal Edition, but you know, not everyone have that in their private underground chamber, so yeah. Also, this is 3v3 game, so peer-to-peer is probably even more complex than what we want. Anyway, let's go to the first main problem, which is shouldn't come as a surprise for most people. Aside from tutorial mode and spelling match, aka the free mode that you can do any match you want and even make a trading mode, cause the game doesn't have a dedicated trading mode apparently, there are two offline modes that people will spend most of their time with, story and goblet mode. A goblet mode is essentially an arcade mode with 6 random battles, but you can choose the opponent and difficulty for each next fight. It's a decent mode with multiple rewards for it if you want to go against higher difficulty to get more points. There is even a Nightmare and Chaos AI rank, which is the hardest AI with even higher stat, and you can also do a core battle as well. Oh, speaking of core battle, it's okay, I guess. As a side mode, it's pretty fun to play with melee character. It's feel like capturing the point game mode from other games in a way, and each stage really make it a different experience. But the AI in this mode really needs some work, cause it seems like they can't really process the idea of someone shooting the core outside the barrier to the point of it becoming a quick farming technique, and the game doesn't swing hard enough, which result in timeout quite often. For story, it's a short, straightforward campaign with 5 branching paths for different groups, consists of cutscene, normal fight against mannequin or villain character, or a boss battle against one of 7 summons in the game. For my experience, playing it through all at once take around 2 to 3 hours if you include both gameplay and cutscene. Also imply that you can get through the fight without losing once, which you likely won't. And I really enjoy my time with it. Even the story, while short, are what I want for crossover game. A simple story that's merely just an excuse for characters to talk and have fun with each other. They say it, I even like it more than the original and Duodecium story. But aside from how short it is, here comes the main problem. I said that playing it through all at once is pretty fun, but you will most likely not going to do that, and that's where Memoria comes in. Basically, Memoria is a token you earn for every player level until level 30, which is where you can finish story mode, and you use it to progress through the story, aka you have to play other modes to get through the story. Now, in some aspect, there's some benefits here. I mean, the story in fighting game is either having story related fight, which will mostly 90% cutscene and 10% playing, and filling it with a bunch of unrelated fight, which technically Dissidia NT and even the original Dissidia and Duodecium is kinda like the latter, with a bunch of fight either online or offline before you see the cutscene. And NT, at the very least, you can play whoever you want and leveling up your favorite and get their attack. But aside from that, the problem kinda outweighs the benefit, and here's the 3 big reasons. 1. There's not many more to play. Again, if you don't care about online, it's gonna come down to gauntlet mode, which even though there's both standard battle and core battle and you can customize your team, leveling up to get more stuff and even have a difficulty setting, it still can easily feel like you're doing the same thing. 2. Spending each Memoria doesn't feel rewarding, especially at the start. Getting one is not really that long, but since around the first 6 to 8 Memoria is just a cutscene and most of them are pretty short, it takes a while to even get to the first fight or even a route to earn the first story trial so you can do different goblet mode instead. Hell, that Group A with Clouds and Bot with 2v2 fight goblet mode is pretty neat. 3. The cool stuff, aka the boss battle against Summon, is mostly in the end, and it's an awesome addition. These boss are kinda like Kingdom Hearts boss with railway system. And even if you have higher level, you have to learn their attack pattern to even stand a chance. Or you can just play marksman like cold battle again. But even that is still a fun fight. Sure, AI doesn't help much, but they didn't reduce team health bar when they die, so you can just use them as a meat shield and let the boss spend bravery on them. It's difficult, but in a fun way. But because most of these fights are at the end of the route, it takes a while to even get there. And even one of the routes that have a summon battle early is the infamous Ramu fight. The hardest fight for majority of people due to his attack is either AoE or target AoE that hit everyone. He's not really hard if you get his pattern down and you can dash properly, but it can be a heavy noob catcher boss if you pick that route. And the newcomer will have like 10 times harder experience than veteran like me, and I will discuss about that learning curve later. And I'm not gonna deny that I feel like the reason that Memoria exists is to spread out the game more due to it having a short story. I think removing Memoria system altogether is not gonna have much of a downside. Sure, newcomer will get their butt kicked by summon battle if they go straight to that, but they can just train on leveling up themselves without having to force them to it. But even ignoring Memoria system, the fact that Goblin mode is the only other mode kinda baffles me. I mean, I know the fighting game or even in some extension a MOBA game usually doesn't have much offline content, but Dissidia NT got a disadvantage due to it being a new kind of game for both veteran and newcomers, so I think it needs some more stuff to support the gameplay. But even ignore that again, it's still puzzling since they can easily make a lot of different modes for this game. And worse, the ingredients are already there waggling their tail in the game. You know how many fighting games when they add a different mode, they need to add outside elements from their base gameplay due to how strict the gameplay is. Like random effect in Injustice 2 Multiverse, a small RPG element in the Tower mode of Arc System game, everything about Smash Brothers. But for NT, many of these things are already in game. A simple level system in story which increase your health, base bravery and attack, a 3 gameplay style, standard, core and summon battle, and how the gameplay already based on RPG element. Those are the perfect recipe for a new game mode that you don't even have to come up with. And this is what the previous game, especially Duodecium, excels at. And it makes sense since they have to make up the fact that it's on a PSP where multiplayer is difficult. Hell, for NT, you don't even need long as hell dungeon or 100 levels. There's a mode like Labyrinth with small leveling up system that only increase your HP, attack and base bravery with a mix of 3 gameplay style and a way to earn kills and token, which can also be a better way to collect cosmetic collectibles. And the fact it's already a team game, the opponent you fight can be extremely rarely, so repetitiveness is already toned down. Heck, even just something from the arcade can easily make a mode out of it. The offline mission mode on the arcade has a thing where if you beat the opponent in less than 2 minutes, you get a chance to fight another team with your remaining health and buffs. Change it a tiny bit and there you go, easy survival mode. I know I have been bashing a lot on Duodecium in previous video, but that game problem is on the main gameplay, not how they use or arrange that said gameplay. NT is the opposite, improve and change the gameplay for the better, but not utilize it with enough engaging mode for some player to invest in it. Yeah, so basically all I'm saying is, let's just hope that the player trays will eventually have more trays in the future. And after done with that rambling, it's time for even more rambling about something else. This is probably my biggest complaint of this game for me, despite the fact that I'm probably the last person on this freaking planet outside Japan to have any problem with this. Despite a pretty generous tutorial that lets you try doing each thing step by step, and even teach you about teamwork so people can shut up about 1v1. I mean, it's not entirely work, but I'll take it. The explanation of each character is little to non-existent. And that's applied to everything from character moveset, which is basically every attack, to unique mechanic, skill, and even summon. The most you got is a vague description of each character and one sentence explanation of HP attack and EX skill. And that's far from enough. There's so many mechanics in many characters that newcomer will completely miss it. I can't count how many times I see all the players play like a bronze AI because they never taught how. And yes, they recently finally added move list, but it's far from perfect. And the fact that they take almost 2 months to put it in, even though this information is the backbone of every character, is saying something. Hell, even if you go to find information online, you'll still have a hard time learning it. The biggest English source Square has ever made is this one site with character move list, which is the same as what they put in the game recently. While some of these does explain some mechanics, it still left a lot of things. Even some of them are outdated, which they will never update it, by the way. And this is supposed to be the biggest English official guide. Also, the biggest promotion video on YouTube that is sponsored by Square is 5-character Maximilian Dude breakdown video. And don't get me wrong, I like his content, but it's clear that he only passed the basic information of each character and not much else. And despite the fact that this video is out near the release of the game, a few information is again outdated and not up to the current patch, one of which is the thing that they already changed in mid-2016, almost 2 years ago. Either Max had to find information on his own, and I can't blame him, it's so freaking hard to do, or Square gave him an outdated info. Either way, it's on Square at this point. And not to brag or anything, and even if I brag, it's still true, the Moveset video series I have made is still the best English source of information for this game. And half of these are 2 years old and it still show better detail with visual example than anything the game has. You know, aside from change patterns and stuff. And honestly, it doesn't even that hard to make. I just look at information in Dissidia Arcade wiki site, get some video for people who play arcade, and there's a crap ton of that. And that's it, why can't you just give us information? Also, I just bought this Ultimania book, which is basically a guidebook for literally everything actually. It's packed full of information and guide. I mean, can you at least give us like 10% of this info without having to translate it? This, in addition to my previous point about lackluster offline content, pretty much concludes the problem with this game. Dissidia NT is a competitive arena team-based fighting game, the genre that have never been popular in the West. It doesn't cater to Final Fantasy fan or even Dissidia fan due to the change of focus to competitive game rather than progression system. It doesn't cater to fighting game fan due to its focus on team-based skill rather than individual skill. The closest thing this game have to pre-existing genre in the West is anime arena fighting game, which rarely ever been competitive or popular, and a Gundam vs game that only have one game that released globally. And this is why NT needs a lot of stuff to sell pretty much everyone aside from a few who follow and doing research on the game beforehand like me. The game doesn't grab you with the promise of more content, since it doesn't pace or arrange well. It didn't grab you with the gameplay, not because of the lack of depth, but the lack of explanation of that depth. Like I said, NT has improved the gameplay a lot, and while I think that's the most important thing and the reason why I think it's a better game than previous two for that reason, it doesn't change the fact that they didn't bother using it or even show it in an interesting way, and that's why some people didn't get the game and stick with something that they're already familiar with or something that they know better. I've been planning on making this video for a while, but because a lot of things happened and I have to rewrite the script twice, so it take a while to come out. Like how Dissidia NT fixed Duodecium video, these videos are my analysis on the game I love, despite both videos have the exact opposite direction. And I'm not concerned if this game is going to die, because it won't. Maybe on the West if it's already not, but this game has been on the arcade alone for 2 years and being one of the top arcade games in Japan for a long time. And NT sold really well in Japan, so I see no problem with it being alive for 2 or more years or even longer. The problem is how much are they going to put an effort in NT port, especially for global version, cause at this point I feel like they didn't care at all outside Japan. And I wish this game got the same treatment as Final Fantasy 14 and 15. It's better late than never, really. In the meantime, I will be staying here in this game. If they make any awesome update in the future, I will let you guys know as soon as possible. And that is all for today's video. I'm pretty sure I said all the problem I have with it. Oh, who am I kidding? I still got more nitpick to rambling out for an hour. Like, why can't I chat during team kill while waiting for opponent, and why can't I do it in solo kill as well? Sure, I want to talk to myself, I'm not lonely. Why can't I play Gauntlet mode without 2 AI and do 1v3 fight or even 1v1 fight against someone? Yes, I'ma say it, what's the problem? Also, why the NT title look so plain and boring? Yeah, the title name is pretty damn cool. But look at this freaking arcade title, man, holy crap, just look at it. Why are you always keeping cool stuff for yourself, Japan? Also, where the hell is the third alternate costume or even weapon you already released in arcade? Lightning is the only one who gets it, so let's just make more for other characters, man. Where's Kingdom Hearts Cloud? Where's Samurai Ace? Oh hey, you don't want to put Kingdom Hearts character in Dissidia? Can we at least get Riku skin for Noctis? Cause seriously, you totally copy your own design, so please just let me, damn it!